There is something captivating about elephants. Perhaps it is their deep human-like family bonds that capture our hearts. But how many of us would feel quite so endearingly towards them if we had to live with a herd of them in our garden?
The elephants normally destroys our crops. Sometimes they end up our lives. The other thing, when we want to go to fetch some water or firewood, we can't reach there because there are a lot of elephants. Yeah, I'm very afraid of elephants. Very much afraid of them.
In northern Botswana, on a narrow block of land, 18,000 elephants compete with 15,000 people for access to food, water and land.
You have these rural communities living outside of protected areas, but they're living with the largest population of elephants in the world.
That's Dr. Graham McCulloch, a Botswana-based ecologist who co-founded the NGO EcoExist to try to address the problem of human-elephant conflict.
It's hard enough to grow crops as it is in a semi-arid environment with very poor Kalahari soils. But when you throw elephants on top of that can come in and wipe out your whole yield in a night, then that adds a huge amount of stress, and that changes perceptions among people who live with elephants.
Graham and his colleagues are trying to connect science with local livelihoods, including using elephant deterrents such as chilies, bees, and solar-powered electric fences. But some farmers go the extra mile to find ways to live alongside these free roaming giants. I spoke to Dr. Anna Songhurst, a conservation biologist who has worked with elephants in Botswana for 17 years.
No, we wouldn't say elephant friendly, and we deliberately wouldn't say that, but they're elephant aware. They're aware of where the movement corridors are, so they try to avoid cultivating on those areas of land to allow the elephants to move. They're using different methods to protect their fields. So we've been working with farmers to use more sustainable agriculture techniques so that they can get higher yields, so that they can farm and stay there for the rest of their lives rather than having to keep moving into elephant habitat and just clearing more land. So their produce that they're producing, it should have an added value to it because there's so much more effort and time going into it, and they're being conservationists.
And so the team came up with a new plan to turn the farmers' millet into beer.
Millet is much more climate resilient, so it's much more resilient to the low, unpredictable rainfalls that we get in this part of Southern Africa. But also, it's a crop that is free, open pollinated, so farmers can keep the seed for the next year, and they're not reliant on seeds coming from outside. And this is one of the reasons why we wanted to focus on this crop rather than other crops like maize and sorghum, which is predominantly the seed is imported.
And despite a global pandemic, the Okavango Brewery is starting to make a real difference to human-elephant relations.
Last season was our first year. It was the first time that we could go back and say to the farmers, okay, now, because you've protected your fields and you're doing conservation agriculture and you respect those elephant corridors, we are going to pay double the price for your produce that you've harvested. And, in the middle of COVID, we were paying those farmers thousands of pula. And the impact that had, some of those farmers straight away took some of the money and gave it straight back to me and said, can you use this money to buy more fencing equipment? That in itself, just, it was so satisfying to see that happening because, that really is creating that circular economy.
Yeah, I managed to sell to sell 10 50 kg bags of millet. If I can have more harvest, I would like to do that again.
it's really exciting. It's really exciting to be able to go back and actually do exactly what we've been wanting to do for 10 years, and that is change the cost of living with elephants into an opportunity that has tangible benefits, that farmers can really see a value in living and coexisting with elephants.